like whatever this guy is smoking is nice. Like it is real nice.
It's that primo kush right there.
Yeah, it's like that primo OG kush that this dude's smoking, because it's a lot higher quality than the like buy one get one trash that I'm like smoking out on my patio.
Welcome, everyone, to the Purpose-Driven Dude. My name is Alex.
And I'm Brad.
And this is episode, I believe, number 8 in our run of the Purpose-Driven Dude.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I guess something like that.
Yeah, we're chugging along at this point. I think we're
I guess that shows you how much attention I've been paying. I don't even know how many fucking episodes we've done.
hitting our groove, I guess. But yeah, this is a podcast about dudism, the slowest growing religion in the world.
Proudly recognized in, I believe, 13 states currently.
Sounds about right. But based on the movie The Big Lebowski by the Coen brothers.
And loosely Taoism.
Loosely Taoism, loosely Buddhism. Loosely,
Transcendentalism.
Yeah, really.
Stoicism.
Any other ism, I guess you want to apply.
Ism, yeah. I mean, as long as it's not assholeism, we're about it.
Yeah, no Trumpism, I guess, if that's a thing.
Well, they're synonymous. Assholeism, Trumpism, meh, yeah.
Manifest destinyism, that's not really a thing.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, it might be with some people. Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on your point of view.
Yeah.
But, so we're going to ramble our way through this episode, apparently.
Yeah, but which is surprising because I'm not nearly as high during this one as I was in the last one.
No, I'm not high at all, yeah.
Slightly.
But I guess at that rate we'll go ahead and just dig right into our first segment, which is particularly doodly. And this one felt to me. I actually wavered between two different stories on this one. I had really two strong contenders. And I decided to go with the one that is a little bit more incongruous with our overall topic, just because I felt like being different, but also because this one. I think kind of speaks. They both spoke really well. I'll mention the other one at the end.
I'm sorry. It wasn't so much what you said; it was how happy with yourself you were when you said it.
I do take a certain amount of joy in contradiction, and
yeah, you just seemed. It was almost giddy.
Well, this story.
Take it away.
Well, this story comes to us from the BBC, one of my favorite news sources, and it's about a woman named Eileen. Eileen just turned 100 years old, and
Come on, Eileen.
Exactly.
I don't know any more of the words.
It's okay. It's a very dirty song.
Yeah.
But the headline of this story, it's from Lancashire. I don't know. Lancashire, England.
Yeah.
And the headline is "Lager: The Secret to Long Life for 100-Year-Old Eileen."
Ooh.
So
that is a Lager, by the way, not Logger.
Yes, lager beer. So the kind of like subtitle to the article is "A can of lager and a packet of custard creams are the secret to a long life for a Blackpool woman celebrating her 100th birthday."
Custard creams?
Custard creams. So like
beer and jelly donuts. That's what we're talking about here.
Basically. And she's kind of this like plucky old woman who just turned 100. Her official statement to the BBC was, or the official statement here was, Eileen said she just wanted her telegram from the Queen and to feel loved by everyone here at the home she lives in. She seems like just like the chillest old lady, basically.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about like centenarians that like they're all just so lovable.
It's just the best. And so, the beer that she prefers is Stella. In the tall can variety, like a true champ, it's got to be said.
Yeah. Oh man. The only thing that would have been better would have been a fucking 40. Like,
So yeah, no, like beer and cookies or biscuits, as they say in the UK, is her kind of secret to longevity. And
which you gotta say is a lot more entertaining than whenever you ask like Asian centenarians and they all go fish.
Yeah.
And it's like you got this fucking English woman going, yeah, beer.
Yeah, beer. And like, so she married her husband at the age of 33. This is a fun little just like side note. And I guess like it says they enjoyed cake and sherry on their honeymoon, but then every day since basically her day wouldn't really be complete without her daily dose of Stella and custard creams. Like that was just her routine essentially. And and they had an interesting story. I guess when they married, it says that she lived in Blackpool since she went there on a honeymoon with her husband back in 1951. And they just like never came back home. They like went to Blackpool on honeymoon and just stayed there, apparently.
Wow.
So like kind of
honeymoons were different back in the day.
They were. First of all, Blackpool. I mean, I guess I've never been to Blackpool. I've always heard it's lovely, but
yeah, I haven't really ever heard much about it. Yeah, people feel free to let me know how wonderful Blackpool is. Obviously, I mean it has some draw.
But yeah, so there you go. Eileen Maher. Recent centenarian and lover of the finer things in life.
Indeed.
Just taking her easy.
For all us sinners out here. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Cheers, Eileen.
Yeah, no joke, man. If I ever get to Blackpool, Blackpool, I will be sure to have a Stella when I'm there.
No kidding.
There you go.
Yeah.
Something in the water, as they say.
Yeah, so. I was about to say, everyone drink a good beer for Eileen.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I did have an honorable mention this week before we move on, and it might be a little more in keeping with our main topic, so I will at least give an honorable mention to Alabama Governor Kay Ivey.
Oh, okay.
Who, this is about a week and a half or so ago, but she officially banned Alabama sheriffs from taking funds meant for prisoner meals. So...
Wow. Okay. So... good job, Kay. That wonderful. 2, that had to be said.
Yeah, that's the thing that blew my mind is that so apparently in Alabama it's been on the books for decades now that any surplus funds for prisoner meals in that state can just be like literally pocketed by the sheriffs in that jurisdiction.
Fucking bananas.
Yeah, and it's been legislated back and forth now over the last like 2 decades or so. Like one, court saying that it was illegal, another court saying it was fine, and she finally like put her foot down apparently and was like, no, this is fucked up because there's like, as you would expect, like malnutrition, like people in the prisons.
No, seriously. I mean, oh my God. The prison system in this country is gonna probably get several rants from me at some point. But anyway, that is fucked right the hell up.
Yeah, it's super weird. It's super fucked. It was like one of those headlines where I was just like, this is like, yeah, you go like, wait, what? And you have to read further because like it just sounds like the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this has been like an ongoing issue, so it's just bizarre.
But thank you, Kay. That is definitely taking legislation in this country into the right direction.
Yeah, just clearly solving some like major problem, like some serious sort of like I guess nepotism essentially, like just fucked up shit.
Yeah, no, seriously. Okay, well, good news out of Alabama.
Which I feel we should highlight when we get it.
Yeah, no.
Like
good news out of any sort of conservative state will definitely be always welcome news.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it, and that I think transitions us well into our main topic this week as well.
I agree. That's actually a very nice. Little bit of news to introduce this one.
Yeah, so our main topic this week is another of our great dudes of history. And this week we are focusing our efforts on Miss Eleanor Roosevelt.
Queen.
Yeah, she is the best. Full name Anna Eleanor Roosevelt, which I learned doing this research.
Yeah.
She, from a fairly early age, actually preferred her middle name to her first.
She preferred her middle name, which I thought was like kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, I'm going to get into like her childhood a little bit going in, but just like, that's what that overly serious child does, is like, oh no, I'm not Anna, I am Eleanor.
Yes, she went with the more, shall we say, classic name, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, powerful name?
Definitely powerful.
Like, between Anna and Eleanor, it's like, if somebody says my name's Eleanor, I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah, no, that is a very strong name.
Yeah, so it denotes someone who takes no fucks.
Yeah, and that was indeed the case for Our Lady, Miss Eleanor Roosevelt, or Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt, yeah. So so here's the thing. We were talking about this before we started recording. We could literally do an entire podcast on Eleanor Roosevelt alone.
Don't tempt me.
This was a tremendous person, a tremendous woman who, I mean, we could be here all day talking about her. And then some.
I was about to say, if we can keep this podcast under an hour and a half, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, we try our best. And so we're going to kind of run quick through good portions of her life. There's going to be people out there I know who are going to be like, oh, you missed this, you missed this. Yeah, I mean, we only have so much time to talk.
Yeah, I was about to say, you guys are only going to listen to us blather for so long. I mean, fucking Ken Burns talked about her for 7 hours, so...
And you could do more. Like, Ken Burns could have kept going, I'm sure. He edited that shit down in a big way. So.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, yeah. We're definitely gonna try and hit the highlights and hit what really we kind of feel ties this in with dudism. And yeah, I guess we can just kind of go ahead and dive into it without any more bloviating.
Sure. So Anna Eleanor Roosevelt was born October 11th, 1884 in New York City. To Elliot Roosevelt and Anna Rebecca Hall.
Yes.
And
very famous already, the family, the Roosevelts.
Socialites, kind of upper crust New York society.
Yeah. Was the niece of soon-to-be president Theodore Roosevelt.
Yep, her father was Teddy Roosevelt's brother.
Yes. So born into a wealthy and privileged family.
Absolutely. One of 4 siblings. And she was particularly close with her brother Hall, is what I remember.
Yeah. So just kind of getting into that. Both of her parents died when she was pretty young. And Eleanor, actually, her mother, Anna, was actually really well regarded as like a great beauty within the New York social circles. And she actually made absolutely no bones about her disappointment in Eleanor's looks from a very, very early age.
Yeah, not only looks, but also demeanor.
And demeanor. Nicknamed her Granny because she was such a serious child. And just really, it's like kind of amazing that she like kind of lived in this environment at such a young age and didn't come out more scarred than she was.
Yeah, you read about the treatment, especially by her mother, and it is a bit surprising. But yeah, you mentioned her folks dying early. Her mother died, I believe, at age 29.
Yeah, of diphtheria.
Which was, I guess, a huge shock to kind of the social circles that she ran in.
Well, only poor people get diphtheria.
Right. Well, 29 is young. I mean, both of us have lived longer.
Yeah, I was about to say we are both older than this woman was at this point. And yeah, no, and then her one of her brothers, I believe it was, also died of diphtheria the next year.
Yep.
And then only a couple of years later, her father actually died. He was an alcoholic. And actually died in a sanitarium after attempting suicide by jumping out a window. And actually, the suicide attempt didn't kill him, but the seizure he suffered afterwards ended up killing him. So this left Eleanor and her siblings on their own very early.
Yeah, and she bounced around to a couple like kind of like boarding schools and such. She was in, I think, like a convent school for a while.
Well, when she was very young,
she was very young. But I actually have one of the highlights of this time period in her life was kind of her transition into adulthood. Essentially, she went to a school in London called Allenswood Girls Academy.
Yeah. In Wimbledon.
In Wimbledon, no
actually.
Less.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, lovely place. But so the breakdown I was reading, which I'm going to go ahead and credit now, it's the National First Ladies Library. It's a partnership with the National Park Service, actually.
Great organization, actually, the First Ladies Library.
Yeah, and I look, if you want really thorough details on Eleanor Roosevelt or any other First Lady, it is like just the place to dig in. They have video clips, they have sound clips. It's very, very cool. But they mentioned that kind of the main teacher, kind of like the head mistress, I guess, of the school, essentially, was Marie Souvestre.
Souvestre.
Oh, Souvestre.
Yeah.
Watch out for
very French English woman.
Watch out for my inability to pronounce things. But so she gotta
get the Foley work in there.
It was very good. But so she taught her kind of widely academically on a number of topics, and some that weren't even offered at the school.
It should be said about Marie Souvestre that very progressive, very forward-thinking educator who was like known for cultivating these like very well-rounded, independent young women, which we're talking about the early 1900s here. Women in the U.S. don't even have the right to vote yet. Yeah. So this was a very, very important part of Eleanor's upbringing.
Yeah, and it mentioned in the little write-up about this time in her life that not only did she teach her academically, but she took her on as a traveling companion through France and Italy.
Yes.
Basically gave Eleanor like the equivalent of like the Grand Tour, essentially, which was what men would go off to, wealthy men would go off to do. But she took her around and showed her, of course, like kind of the sites that you'd expect to see in a kind of a classic education, but also took her to sites parts of cities that were like predominantly working class, that were impoverished and run down. And it mentions in this article that it had a real lasting effect on Eleanor, and I mean, you'll see that as we go on. And Eleanor actually refers back to that time period, I think it was 3 years that she spent at this school, as the happiest years of her life.
Oh yeah, so. And it was during this time she really, developed like the self-confidence and the drive that she was known for later. I think I just loved this quote. At age 14, which was kind of ramping up into these years, she actually wrote. And we had referred to her mother being very disappointed by how she looked. That obviously was very traumatic for a child growing up. But at age 14, she wrote, "No matter how plain a woman may be, if truth and loyalty are stamped upon her face, all will be attracted to her." And I was like, okay, 14.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, like, she's more quotable than I am at 32. I mean.
Yeah, no, seriously. I'm like, 14. That is just fucking incredible that a mind was working like that.
Totally. And she kind of set to work when she got back to the States. Her grandmother wanted her to have her big like society
coming out
introduction.
Society introduction.
And she was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna go work with the settlement movement."
Yeah,
like, fuck you.
She literally like coming back to society. She was just miserable because I mean she didn't know anybody and nobody like judged her on her mind and her merits. They, it was like upper class New York in the, early 1900s. Everybody was like, oh, this woman that we don't think is attractive. She just like got right into it. Started with doing education, doing physical education with the Junior League, which was which is a nonprofit organization that was aimed at like improving local communities. I loved this. She was introduced to the Junior League. I mean, one of her relatives was one of the founders. But it was a male relative that she overheard criticizing the league for, quote, drawing young women into public activity. And I
Just
believe
amazing.
I believe my exact writing was, with both middle fingers firmly raised, Eleanor began a life of nurturing and advocating for others.
Well, and to place this kind of in its context, we're talking about my first notes into this foray were in 1902, 1903. So we're talking about the presidency of Teddy Roosevelt, her uncle, at this point. And one of the first things I mentioned here too, I mentioned just a second ago, it's the settlement movement / houses, and they were basically community centers for working class, predominantly immigrants. And you talk about physical education, a lot of it centered around after people have been cramped up working long hours in a factory, getting up, moving around, making sure their joints
making sure that they're
up,
healthy, Yeah.
And so she went right from that to speaking of Teddy Roosevelt and kind of his a lot of his public campaigns. She worked for something called the Consumers League, which specifically went around trying to expose abuses at workers of workers at their jobs and in their living conditions.
Wow.
And she just was like an investigator. She was literally like an investigator for this organization.
Yeah.
Which is rad. Like, that's so cool.
It's amazing. And that's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because one of her relatives, I'd have to go back and look it up again, actually wrote a series of mystery novels with her as the investigator after she had passed away.
It's perfect.
Which I'm like, that circle there is really nice.
Yeah, but she did that until she married Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1905.
Right,
So.
and they had actually met on a train and had begun courting, I think, in 1902.
That sounds
was
right.
Was about whenever they started their relationship, and it was actually it's a really fascinating thing, because you hear all these people who are like, oh yeah, the cousin factor or whatever, which it's like, fifth cousin's thrice removed or something like that.
I have a fifth cousin once removed.
Fifth cousin once removed, but it's
still very distant.
That's not really related. That's like there are two people in the same county that have the same last name.
That's pretty distantly related.
It'd be like a Smith marrying a Smith.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. But and they
but still a marriage that was kind of frowned upon. Especially by Franklin's mother, who by all accounts just sounds like a right bag of dicks. Sounds like such a horrible person to be around.
Yeah, it didn't sound to be a pleasant person by any stretch.
So at this time you kind of see Eleanor start to recede a little bit, almost under Franklin's mother's eye.
Well, they stopped popping out kids pretty damn quick.
Yeah,
too,
so they and I mean, when we're talking what this woman, Sarah Roosevelt, by the way, Franklin's mother, what she was doing to this poor woman, literally a few months before they were supposed to get married, just took Franklin and went on a cruise and just left for 2 months. And hoping that the absence would make them decide to break off their relationship.
Oh boy.
Again, it's incredible that Eleanor came through all of this as, steadfast and unscathed as she was.
Yeah, no joke, man. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I've seen that sort of thing play out before, and it's just a fucked up move. Forced trying to separate people like that. It's just, in a cruise. It rubs me the wrong way.
And then whenever they were finally married, the mother's gift to them was a property that was literally attached to her property by a sliding glass door. So all that is to lead into how Eleanor responded to all this. That rambly ass lead up led to some amazing things.
Yeah. Well, my next note is up into World War I. So if you had something before that.
Let's see. Nope, take it away. I'm going to 1918.
Okay, so Specifically, again, kind of combing through the National First Ladies Library, the next major note they had in terms of her work, essentially, was during World War I. She worked with the Navy Relief Society, in which she lobbied and also directly cared for sailors, but just general war veterans coming back from the front who were suffering from mental health issues upon returning from the war. So she was, it was advocation and also like direct working with veterans. This is one of the first mentions I see of her doing that, which she did throughout her career.
Yeah. I mean, this was something she was doing from, the 1900s up until her death.
Yeah, she was a huge advocate for veterans, for military personnel returning from war. And again, like an early recognition of like the mental health impacts of combat and of war. So she was right there.
Eleanor Roosevelt talking about PTSD before it was cool.
But that was like a big push of her kind of early political activism too, essentially. So
there was actually in advocating for veterans. There was actually a group of World War I veterans. And this is jumping ahead a little bit, but just this story ties in. Was a group of World War I veterans that were protesting in order to have access to their pensions, which were not being paid out at the time. And they had actually initially protested during the presidency of Herbert Hoover. And whenever they protested, Hoover called up a cavalry division to disperse the protest.
Like the true bag of dicks that he was.
Like the massive bag of dicks that he was. And then Roosevelt, they came into office. Franklin Delano Roosevelt came into office. And whenever these veterans protested again, he sent Eleanor, who sat at a campfire and sang army songs with them and talked them down.
It sounds about right.
And one of the veterans was later quoted as, "Hoover sent the army, Roosevelt sent his wife."
Oh, man. And that's the thing. She was kind of a badass, like, in this regard. Like, there was a whole
kind
section.
of?
I mean, kind is an understatement. There's a whole segment of the write-up that I was reading that I think it was just Eleanor Roosevelt, Friend of the GI, I think was the name of the section of this thing.
That sounds about right. Because, I mean, even if you go to the website biography.com. Oh, no, go for it.
Oh, right. Here we go. Yeah, not quite as good as your can open, I guess.
But. Yeah, but you know what? We'll see if the clink of the cap picked up on the mic. But yeah, no, she. If you go to biography.com and look up her profile there, the number of videos that are of her addressing veterans is really incredible. Yeah. But this is also the time she began advocating for labor as well. In I believe it was about 19. Well, so backtracking just a little bit, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was stricken with an illness in 1918. Some people say it was polio. Now I guess there's some debate about what it actually was.
Yeah, there was another one. I didn't write it down, but it was a debilitating disease. He basically lost the use of his legs.
Yes, he almost died. Eleanor was actually the one who nursed him back to health, which is incredible because this was after her finding out that he was having an affair, that she literally she decided to stay with him. And actually was basically the reason that he A, remained in politics, but B, just survived.
Yeah. Proving definitively she was the far better person in that relationship.
Yeah, I was about to say proving to be the superior person in every way.
Yeah, in so many fucking ways.
About this time, she actually started working with the Women's Trade Union League, which was very instrumental in fighting for initially a 48-hour work week, an actual minimum wage, which did not exist at the time, and to abolish child labor.
Yeah, and she was active. I have this as one of my notes. She was active in that organization, the Women's Trade Union League, from 1922 through 1955.
Yeah.
She was a steadfast advocate of these things.
Yeah, no, she absolutely. I mean, she was an advocate for pretty much her entire adult life, and even preceding, I guess.
Totally. Well, and I had a note before that, actually, from 1924 to 1928, kind of in a similar vein. She was associated with the Women's City Club of New York, which was tasked itself with keeping women engaged and informed about political issues and social issues. Everything from birth control all the way through like voting rights and how to register and these sort of things. Like just amazing work.
Yeah, no, and I mean it's so after Franklin Delano Roosevelt's. I am going to get so tired of saying his name. I'm just gonna
just FDR
it. I'm gonna FDR it for the rest of the podcast. So after his illness, she began basically appearing for him in public in a lot of places. There was actually a political cartoon at one point, which is of a miner in a tunnel, and he's like looking astonished as he looks down the tunnel, and he says, "Oh my gosh, it's Mrs. Roosevelt."
Yeah, it's a New Yorker cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's still like the one thing that struck me about that, aside from like how funny it was, but also was just that how there's a continuity. I didn't really think about this, but of the New Yorker's like cartoon style with like the kind of cursive font with like the lettering underneath. I didn't realize that, but yeah, it looks like a current day New Yorker cartoon. Very cool, very very cool.
Yeah. 19. Boy, just blanked on the year. FDR got elected. 32.
32, I believe.
Yeah, because he was in office for 12 years.
Yes, till his death.
Yeah. So 32. And she really she was not happy about the fact that she was going to have to become the first lady of the United States, and understandably so. And so she basically reinvented the view of the First Lady of the United States.
Oh, totally.
She is the reason that that FLOTUS is a thing.
Totally. I mean, like, she took a job.
Yeah.
Well, like, and back then, that first of all, a woman taking a job was kind of unusual. Scandalous. Well, and in New York society, no less, taking a job. She worked with, it escapes me, but it was like during World War II, it was like a war effort job about like, it was in association with the mayor of New York at the time, whose name is escaping me. He's like super famous. Anyway,
I am far enough into my trip that I'm going to be real shit with names unless they're right in front of me. So.
Airport's named after him. LaGuardia. But it was an organization that he started to help basically, or to start preparing the city for the possibility of like invasion and attack. And what they were doing is they were physically training.
Which, by the way,
people.
I want everybody who's listening to think about how fucking bananas that is.
Yeah, just that on its surface. But they were starting to stockpile like supplies, like they were starting to stockpile firefighting supplies for the possibility of air raids. They were starting to physically train people to be able to like get down to shelters quickly and things.
Yeah.
And she took a job. It was an unpaid job, but she took a job with this organization. And like that was super scandalous at the time. Like the first lady taking this job that was like essentially like the equivalent of like handing out like emergency supplies.
Yeah, and I mean it was one of those situations where it's like, you know, before that pretty much every first lady had been like a hostess, more or less.
Which she also did. Like she did all of that shit too. Like the high society crap.
Yeah.
She did all that and she did all this other I mean she was an
I was about to say,
person.
I guess in contrast to dudism, Eleanor Roosevelt was not lazy.
She was like a capital A achiever.
Yeah, she was a Lebowski achiever.
Yeah, and proud we are of her in particular. But yeah, well, and she did a lot of things that were kind of scandalous during that time. Like that was scandalous for a society woman to be doing, especially for a first lady.
Yeah.
She was the first white resident of Washington D.C. to join the D.C. chapter of the NAACP.
Oh yeah, was very good friends actually with several prominent people in the NAACP. Actually, I'm literally, as we speak, looking at a picture of her in a cockpit of an airplane with one of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she advocated for segregation of the military.
Right. She was part of the civil rights movement before the Kennedys decided to make it cool.
Totally. Well, yeah, she it's a bit of a fast forward, but speaking of which, like, she helped fundraise for Martin Luther King and for Rosa Parks and for a number of people.
She actually lobbied very heavily in 1934 for the Costigan-Wagner bill, which was a bill introduced to Congress to make lynching a federal crime.
Yeah.
And in doing so, she orchestrated a meeting between Franklin and the NAACP president, Walter Francis White, who was the person I was trying to remember earlier, who she was on very good terms with for their entire lives together. And so she was actually probably the most prominent civil rights activist in the United States for a good 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think really until, like you said, like the Kennedys really started stepping into
and up until Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Sort of stepped into the spotlight. It was kind of Eleanor Roosevelt's game.
Well, and because she had such a position of prominence, right? Like she ran was it like a weekly radio show? She wrote columns. She was on TV all the time.
Yeah, if anybody. By the way, also listeners, go online, look up the My Day columns. They are incredible to read.
Yeah, she started that trend, right, of like first ladies sort of like advocating essentially for various causes. And in the My Day situation, I mean, my understanding is like they start off kind of almost like whimsical, like, oh, here's a fun little anecdote like around the White House.
Right.
But very quickly turned into her advocacy for various issues, and oftentimes in opposition to her husband, which I think is just amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, just on the subject of civil rights, was very, very critical of the Roosevelt administration's decision during World War II to inter Japanese Americans. She was very, very opposed to the situation and gave her husband no end of grief for it, and good on her.
Yeah, she was vocally opposed. We've seen parallels recently, but in like the shittiest way possible of a similar situation where like Eleanor Roosevelt actually went out to Arizona, I believe, to a camp in Arizona ahead of a protest and witnessed the conditions and everything, and again was actively advocating against these things.
Right.
And it's like the true version of what like fucking Melania tried to do.
Yeah.
Like it'd be the equivalent of Melania basically just like every week going on fucking YouTube and being like, I fucking hate my husband and here's why. Which like she doesn't have the fucking cojones to do. So.
Oh man, I would like to see that though.
Oh, I would pay so much money for it.
I would subscribe to YouTube Red to actually see that.
Yeah, but it's like that's the thing.
Are you listening, YouTube?
Are you listening, fucking Melania? Like
both of you.
Yeah, I'm willing to watch you fucking just like tear into your husband. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's very obvious you want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. But that's the thing. Like, as opposed to like this person who's trying to like uphold like this idea of like a family unit and everything like the Trumps, like Eleanor Roosevelt was just like, nah, fuck that shit. Like internment camps, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like in so many words, you know. I mean,
yeah.
And like again, like the Tuskegee Airmen, like going in on she. One of the big things she did during World War II was she tried to create this sense of solidarity with the American people. Like she basically made sure that the White House was adhering to like the oil regulations and she planted a victory garden. And she did like all of these things to basically show solidarity with the average American.
Yeah.
Which I mean, you're never gonna fucking see out of current administration, I feel. So.
Yeah. That. Well, yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, honestly,
there's really nothing else I can add to that sentiment.
I mean, it's just the fucking truth, you know? I mean...
Yeah. Pretty much Eleanor, I mean, even after... she remained very prominently active in advocating for civil rights, for workers' rights, for children's rights, for women's rights, for
for students' rights, for
everybody,
veterans affairs, for gender equality. Like, yeah, just write down the list.
Absolutely.
She was not only an advocate, but like made it her business. She wouldn't just put out a statement. She would like join an organization or help fundraise, or she was actively involved with these things.
Yeah, she became. She was actually named by Harry Truman as a delegate to the United Nations General Assembly.
Only woman at the time to be assigned from the U.S. for that.
Yeah. April 1946 became the first chairperson of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights.
Mm-hmm. In which she helped author probably one of her most famous works, which was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, I believe is what it was called.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is still it's basically a founding document of the UN.
Yeah. After Franklin's death in 1945, until the end of her life, just never ceased to show just like absolute compassion and empathy. Absolutely. With everybody that she came in contact with. I'm sure you have a few more notes to just highlight the...
Yeah, I do. Well, one little fun side note, just backtracking slightly. I did not realize this until I was reading up on her, but, everybody, one of my friends at work actually this last year dressed up like Rosie the Riveter, right? Like the classic, like bicep pose. And... For those of you who are listening at home, we both just flexed almost simultaneously, like you could see us. But that was it's still a massively popular campaign, and it's like this women's empowerment sort of thing. But there were advertisements that ran in movie theaters around the country talking about this program to get women involved in trades. As men went off to war, they were going into factories and working in production. And Eleanor Roosevelt hosted that segment. It's like about an 8-minute video. She's like the voice of Rosie the Riveter, basically, like the Rosie the Riveter campaign.
Everybody wonders who the model was.
Which is just buck wild. You watch this video and it's like her, like, a couch. Like, it's like, hi, I'm Eleanor Roosevelt. We're going to talk about women in the trades. And you're just like, what the fuck?
All I can think of is like actually being greeted by that phrase, hi, I'm Eleanor Roosevelt.
It almost had the air of one of those, because she was parodied from time to time because she had that kind of like transatlantic accent and everything.
Yeah, it's a hilarious accent.
But it was like one of those sort of things you could almost see like an SNL sketch of like, oh hi, I didn't see you come in. I'm Eleanor Roosevelt. It almost had that air about it.
If it's the best. I swear to God, if SNL had started like just a decade earlier, that probably would have been one of their sketches.
Totally. No, that's the weird kind of thing. How like. Contemporary she was up to into the 60s really.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a couple other things. So she she was involved with the Fair Employment Practices Commission.
Yes.
Which aimed to ban discrimination on the grounds, and you might recognize this, of race, creed, color, or national origin. That was one of her big pushes, was to get that commission to come up with these guidelines.
Where have I heard that before?
Right, like literally every job application you've ever filled out.
Cool.
She equated, on no uncertain terms, American racism with Nazi Aryanism.
Yep.
She was deeply involved actually with the Red Cross throughout both wars, essentially. We talked about the UN Declaration of Human Rights. We talked about the Civil Rights Movement, and one of the big pushes that she had that I had noted here, and it seemed like a kind of a through line from a lot of her advocacy work and all of her other sort of positions that she held, was that she promoted dialogue above all else.
Yes.
She was really interested in getting people to sit down around a table and talk, even if they disagreed, even if she disagreed with them. She was an advocate of discourse. Informed discourse and an informed electorate and informed society, which it couldn't be any more timely, really.
Knowledge is power.
Totally. So we're kind of getting to the end of my notes here. We're going to tie it all back around to the Dudism and Taoism of the whole affair. Now, I highlighted a number of chapters. So did you.
Right.
I think you have the earliest chapter, just numerically.
I don't know. Well, I do. I do have that in a moment. That kind of ties in in a second. But I think actually the translation that really spoke to me in this particular instance was actually, I got this from Taoism.net, wonderful website. Please patronize it. So the Tao Te Ching, chapter 67, in their translation that they're using here, reads, "I have just 3 things to teach: simplicity, patience, compassion." And basically, I'll be goddamned if that doesn't kind of sum it up right there.
Totally.
And most especially that last part, compassion. And what you were referring to earlier was actually a part of chapter 2 in the Tao Te Ching, which is on compassion and non-discrimination. And reads, "When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad." And she basically, was talking about throughout her life, she just embodied that, like, that compassion and that drive to banish discrimination societally. And yeah, it just like really stuck out to me that these were 2 things that in one verse of the Tao Te Ching were so intrinsic to this woman's character.
Totally. Yeah. Well, the big chapter that I highlighted a couple. I highlighted about 4. So Tao Te Ching, chapter 10, chapter 54, chapter 59, and chapter 72, I think all relate to Eleanor Roosevelt in one way or another. The one I'm going to read, I think, is the one that really drove it home for me. It's chapter 54 of the Tao Te Ching. I'm reading from the Du Te Ching. I'm going to just read the Tao Te Ching, the actual Tao Te Ching translation, at least at first here. So it reads, "That which is given a good foundation in Tao cannot be knocked down. That which deeply embraces Tao cannot be torn from it. Tao's adepts and heirs to its homestead, just as children are kin to their clan." So here's the part that really got me. "When one cultivates Tao in his person, his character will become genuine. When one cultivates Tao in his family, its strength will become multiplied. When one cultivates Tao in his community, its virtues will become long-lasting. When one cultivates Tao in his country, its goodness will prosper. When one cultivates Tao everywhere, its benefits will spread broadly across the world. To get started, compare your person against other persons, compare your family against other families, compare your community against other communities, and compare your country against other countries, and compare your world with everything that has come before it. How can one confirm that this method works? Only through personal observation. Don't take my word for it." And that's the thing. She was a citizen of the world, of her country, of her community, and an outstanding citizen of all of them. So,
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Yeah, if that doesn't just about sum it up, I don't know what will.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, an absolute, I think, excellent addition to our Great Dudes of History. I almost feel like writing the website to have them add her to the official list.
Oh yeah, no, I think we absolutely should. So look forward to my email, Oliver.
Yeah, and cheers to you, Eleanor
Roosevelt.
Great dude of history.
Indeed. Well, folks, that's going to take us right into our final segment today, which is going to be getting to the dude of the matter.
Very excited.
Oh my God. I was like, nope, I'm doing something positive. I'm doing something positive this week.
Excellent.
I have to do it. The last 2 weeks have been hell. I need this.
All right.
And on a search on NPR, I actually came across this headline, and this made me very happy.
Oh.
Starbucks to open first signing store in the U.S. to serve deaf customers.
Well, that's pretty damn cool.
And now, folks at home, I'm pretty loath to say anything nice about Starbucks. They're a massive chain and corporation. They burn the shit out of their grounds of their coffee. I mean, I go in maybe twice a year in October to get me a pumpkin spice latte because every October I devolve into a basic white bitch.
Apparently, because I cannot stand those drinks.
That's the only one. That's the only flavored drink that I like at Starbucks. I made the mistake one time of ordering something without caffeine.
Why?
No. I literally had no idea that this thing didn't have caffeine in it, and I think that was the closest I've ever been to an actual migraine in my life. So many things wrong with me. Luckily, I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. Dude, Starbucks for me is literally a tool. Like, in the same way that, like, I use a pen to write, or, like, we'll pick up, like a fucking, like, ruler to draw a straight line. Like, if I am dead tired, if I just need caffeine, the one saving grace of Starbucks coffee is that it's really high caffeine content. And I can go over to a Starbucks and get a cold brew coffee, and that's the thing, is like, I don't trust them to make the coffee. Like you said, they burn the shit out of it every single time.
Yep.
So I will get something that the baristas there have not touched. It's made from a concentrate and just brought into the store. I'll get an iced coffee. It'll give me a jolt of energy, and like, that is the only purpose. I don't go there for the flavor. I think it tastes like garbage. I don't go there for the like, experience or any of that bullshit.
Blonde roast is okay.
I haven't tried the blonde roast, but that's the thing. I use Starbucks purely as a tool. If I want a good cup of coffee, I'll either make it myself, or I'll go down to my local coffee shop, which I fucking love and I patronize almost every day. So, because I like to support local business. I like to support, like, good businesses that actually, like, treat their employees decently and these sort of things, you know? I can go on about Starbucks. I'm not a fan. So let's get to the good thing, shall we?
I was expecting that to happen. I don't know if I was actually prepared for the intensity of it.
I have strong feelings, goddammit, about Starbucks.
I mean, I don't fucking necessarily like them either, but this is really fucking cool.
No, okay, like, they occasionally will, like, right the ship in some way or another, so, like, let's see what they did.
Oh my god, I'm laughing so hard about that. All right, so they're doing something good. They're actually going to be launching in Washington, D.C., the Signing Store project, which is going to be one of the first businesses that is 100% prepared and friendly towards hearing impaired patrons.
Okay.
And so to that end, they're actually working with a man whose name I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce here, Adam Novsum.
Looks about right.
Yeah, I mean, it looks about right, but I'm like, oh my god, look at me. They're totally, like, the V's going to be silent or something.
Corporate tool. Let's just call him that.
No. He's a deaf utility analyst.
Oh, okay, fine.
No,
I saw Starbucks headquarters in the same line, and I just, like, immediately went negative.
So
that's on
yeah,
me.
He works for their headquarters in Seattle, but he's a deaf utility analyst.
Okay, cool.
And he this article states, and this is from NPR.org. Article states, Adam Novsum knows firsthand how frustrating it can be to accomplish even the most basic transactions in the hearing world. And he goes on to talk about how, like, sometimes he tries to lip read, and often there are misunderstandings, and if he gestures for, like, a pen and paper, like, people are frustrated because they feel like it's taking too much time, or they're
motherfuckers in line at Starbucks, dude. Some of the worst.
And so so what they're basically doing is they're cultivating a space that is just intrinsically designed to be able to accommodate hearing impaired persons as part of their everyday patronage.
Okay.
So actually, they say, what was it they actually said? So one of their spokespeople said, our built environment, largely constructed by and for hearing individuals, presents a variety of surprising challenges to which deaf people have responded with a particular way of altering their surroundings to fit their unique ways of being. So basically, they've been doing this research for a while amongst a lot of places where hearing impaired customers have been able to be observed, and they're trying to apply what they have observed to accommodating better in just their general service for these customers. And that includes having a higher majority of employees trained by the company to actually be able to communicate at least nominally in sign.
Okay.
Which actually reminded me a lot of, I used to work for Home Depot, and one of the positive things I will say about them is that they were very, very good about trying to find people who could communicate to people, not just in other languages, but in communicate with people that were hearing impaired or sight impaired or anything like that. So that was like actually something that there was a lot of emphasis on.
That's nice. Yeah, it's good to hear.
Which is really cool. And so yeah, it's good to see that like Starbucks going in this direction as well. Implementing things like Braille menus in their restaurants.
That's cool.
Which will also be helping, of course, people who are sight impaired. Exposing that culture, that business culture, to what is, in essence, a new language, and making sure that it's something that's going to be accessible moving forward.
And that's good. I mean, and I would say this too. I mean, like, I usually have very few kind words for big corporations, but a big company like Starbucks trying to bring this sort of thing to like prominence and attention, like that can have a big effect, right? Like that's using your platform for some kind of good.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is if we see this influence make its way into other large corporations, we might actually have a good thing going there.
That'd be nice, you know, and I mean, that's the thing, like, we shouldn't be, it'd be nice if we weren't just talking about kind of like token examples of these sort of things, like with Home Depot or with Starbucks. It'd be nice if this was more, like, way more common.
Right.
So if there's something, I think good here, that sounds like a good thread, you know.
I'm willing to take it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, that and straws, I guess, you know.
Starbucks, I'll see you in October.
Hopefully it will be at least that long until I go in, so. Yeah. But yeah, that's cool, man. I mean,
all the people around this this project in Washington D.C., go patronize this establishment.
Seriously, yeah.
Make sure it's a success.
If this podcast reaches anybody in the greater D.C. metro area, dude, go down there. Buy yourself something that you can tolerate from their menu.
And then throw it at Mitch McConnell.
That'd be wonderful. Look, if you would like to throw coffee at any elected representative, that sounds fine to me.
Yeah. Except Elizabeth Warren. Leave her alone.
Yeah, she's gone through enough.
Yeah. And Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris, man.
Yeah, don't throw anything at her.
Throw some coffee at Feinstein, I say.
Sure.
If you feel
iced coffee. Make sure it's cold. Don't burn anybody.
We've gone down a pretty dark path here. Maybe don't like assault people.
Don't throw coffee at people. It's not good.
Yeah.
But buy them coffee and then let it get cold before you give it to them. How about that?
Let it get cold and then just don't drink it because it's not good coffee.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying is buy it for the politicians and then let it get cold.
And then give them the cold coffee.
Give them the cold coffee.
I like that. Here's some burnt, disgusting cold coffee.
Yeah, or microwave it and then give it to them.
Oh, man. That's a good troll. That's a deep troll.
Oh, man.
That's
that would
layers.
Be fun. I got to try that sometime.
Yeah, I like that. Just hang out at the fucking Capitol building handing out shitty coffee. Talk about like the most like that'd be like, and that's like good like subversive.
Supreme Court justices are filing past you. Here's your shitty coffee, Mr. Kennedy. Here's your shitty coffee, Mr. Roberts. Here's your very good coffee, Miss Ginsburg. Have a good day, ma'am.
I think it's like it could be like the like protest equivalent of running like a lemonade stand. You know?
Yeah.
You just show up at like the Capitol with like
the shittiest, most burnt coffee of all time.
Yeah, and whenever somebody comes up that you like, you're like, no, trust me, you don't want this. Like, just keep going. Just keep going.
Yes, Miss Warren. Here is your single origin latte.
It's a delight. As are you. Here you go.
All right, folks. Well, I'm glad we managed to turn that around.
through some rough tides, we righted the ship,
Yeah,
as
I
it
was
were.
about to say.
So,
but yeah, no, by all means, thank you everybody for joining us again on this ridiculous pursuit we have decided to engage in.
Yeah, appreciate y'all for joining us. I never say y'all. That's the first time I said y'all in a long time. I am a Southern California kid. I should not be saying that as much.
I say it every day, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But anyway, but thank you for joining us. We definitely appreciate you listening, telling your friends.
Feel free to reach out to us via Gmail at pddcast@gmail.com.
Yep, you can reach us also on Facebook. That's facebook.com/pddcast.
And at Twitter at pddcast.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't really know how Twitter works, so if somebody wants to tweet at me and explain it to me.
It seems like a place for angry people. I'm not sure if it's really our bag.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried a couple of times.
But if we get someone tweeting at us, I mean, hey, we
yeah,
can
sure.
respond,
Maybe I'll actually, I've got alerts set up, I guess, to,
yeah.
Tell me if somebody's doing that.
Yeah, that sounds good. But yes, you can reach us there. You can, of course, find us. I'm assuming you're listening on iTunes, but I think we simulcast out to other places. I don't know. Maybe.
Sure. Podcast platform of your choice. Try searching Purpose Driven Dude. If we're not there,
let us know.
Yeah.
We will do our best to get on it.
See about getting onto that.
Yeah. What else? Our music. We should credit our music.
Yes, we should.
So that is Apache Tomcat providing the music for our intro and outro here.
Yeah.
The song is 2 p.m. Wake Up Call.
Off of their album Classics by Request.
Mm-hmm.
And feel free to check these guys out. Really awesome albums that you can find online. Just wonderful, punk and just classic rock.
Yeah, man. Show them
sort
some
of
love,
style.
Man.
Yeah.
I like the surf rock side. Yeah, they got some punk.
I'm really into the punk.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. So show them some love. Drop some likes on their content.
Yeah, absolutely. Let them know that we care about them.
Yeah. And is there anything else for housekeeping?
I don't think so. We're part of the Unit 24 network.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check out backlogs of shows like Good Libations and Get Off My Lawn, and you can listen to Your Fave is Problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And just really share the love around that podcast community.
Yeah, well, and soon to be a Zone of the Unknown.
Oh, yes. Very soon to be. I know I've been saying that for a little while now, but I'm serious. I have things edited. They're ready to go. Mm-hmm. I just need to finish up a couple of things. So look to see that pretty soon. Hear me blather on about, the paranormal and the weird and the mysterious.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to mention PodCon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we, as of recording, PodCon 2 has just been announced up in Seattle, Washington. It's going to be January 19th and 20th. We're going to be there along with a lot of our buddies from Unit 24 Productions. So if you love podcasts, if you want to meet us there, I'm thinking of doing a little bit of dude cosplay.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you'll probably find me meditating in some quiet room at some point while you're there. So by all means, feel free to come and join us.
Yeah, meditating, maybe shamelessly self-promoting a little bit, all that good stuff. So
I didn't say I wouldn't have cards in the pocket of my robes.
Yeah. But hey, if you're so inclined, that's coming up. It is brought to you by the good people like the Green Brothers and also the Night Vale Community Radio.
The McElroys.
Yep, some pretty big players in the podcast game. We're fans, to be sure. And
all of those people.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to attending the second one. We were at the first one last year, so
it was a great time. Anybody and everybody, please come to this event. It is truly incredible.
Yep, it's a really good time, especially if you're at all interested in podcasting or learning about podcasting and how to put together a podcast. I mean, I think it's one of the things that kind of spurred us to put together this podcast in a lot of ways.
It definitely helped. It definitely got us a lot further along.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you're in the Seattle area or if you plan to attend, let us know and we'll figure out a way to meet up and say hi.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Hope to see you there.
Absolutely.
And with that, I think we're done with housekeeping.
I think you're right, and I guess that brings us to the end of episode 8. So
no, fuck it, dude.
Yeah, fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling.
Indeed. I'm out of beer.